On this week's episode, Sonic races back to the theaters.
So fast.
Too fast. Rockstar wants to revive Max Payne, and it's a return to the next generation for Star Trek. All this and more, as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. The Lakers Fast Break. Even though the Lakers season is over, we're doing shows each and every week at the Lakers Fast Break. Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Game Source, where we cover the latest in gaming right there at Game Source on Facebook. Plus, we're the #1 tabletop RPG streamer on Facebook, so if you can go ahead and check us out at Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos, you'll not only get the latest news and information, but you will see the wonderful and fantastic folks that cover our tremendous amount of games we do on the weekend with Mitch, running the show as the DM there, the Demolition Crew, and the Wacky Crew and the wacky things that they do each and every Monday, plus Melinda and Rob and everything that they do for us, including the Vampires and Vitae, which are every single week right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, plus Wizards and Wine and so much more. You want to go ahead and check it out today, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, popculturecosmos.com, and if you can support all that, it is sincerely appreciated. Hope I didn't scare anyone away with that intro.
It's a lot.
I know, it's a lot to
We
remember.
might be busy people.
Yes, we are busy. We try to keep it busy, that's for sure. Try to keep you entertained here
Absolutely.
at the Pop. Yeah, absolutely here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. She is the official mastermind behind Vampires and Vitae. Don't tell her husband. You can go ahead and check her stuff out today at Pop Culture Cosmos, but at Vampires and Vitae. Go ahead and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Vampires and Vitae. Plus, she is also the official mastermind of Wizards and Wine. It is my good friend. It is Melinda Barkhouse Ross. And Melinda, great to have you back.
Good to be
Looking
back.
forward to talking some awesome pop culture thingamabobs on this week's show.
Mm-hmm. And we're excited because we are now COVID-free in the house. Hey!
Yay! Great. I'm happy that it's such great news.
Yeah.
Obviously, continued good health to you and the entire household.
Mhm.
Hopefully, now that you can officially wreak havoc upon the world again as part of Vampires and Vitae and, of course, Wizards and Wine. But I'm going to be nervous throughout the entire program. I cannot check my social media. I can't do anything. I'm basically pinned down. I feel like I'm in Severance because
Huh.
the finale of Severance just dropped. And I'm really nervous because I got to see it. It's been an incredible ride so far, but I can't see it until later this evening. And I'll be talking about, I will be talking about the entire season, and we'll be talking about some great things when it comes to Severance. And I'll have my official thoughts on season 1 of Severance, which just got renewed for season 2 by Apple Plus this week. So I'm so happy about that.
Nice.
Also want to give a big shout out to the Lakers Fast Break because we've been covering Winning Time, and that just got renewed for season 2 by HBO. So good things as far as shows we're following, but please check out Severance. The finale is here. I'm sure it's going to be a cliffhanger. It's already trending worldwide on social media. I'm really glad to see it. So I'm kind of nervous of what happens, what's going on with Severance, but I will be talking about it in great deal on Monday. But Melinda, I'm glad to go ahead and talk pop culture with you anytime.
Oh, well, that's a relief because otherwise, what would we talk about?
Severance. It's been that type of show. I'll say this, okay? I've been watching Severance and catching up on it again for the third time. Been watching through it for the third time this week just to make sure I'm prepping up for the Monday show. And I compare this show to some of the other shows I'm watching. I won't say any names. Halo. Oh, I just did. I'm sorry.
Oh, dear.
Where it has, as I said earlier this week on the Monday show, I said to Josh that Halo has not only jumped the shark, it's doing a backflip over it. It's just at this point, it's just to me, it's just bad, and to me, it just falls into that scenario where I think if you're not a fan of the video game series, just like Uncharted and the Uncharted movie,
Right.
you're going to enjoy it a lot more than if you're into the lore and if you've played the video games and if you enjoyed the video games over the years, because they have really gone in a different direction, and I'm not sure it's the best. But you know what? I'm still happy because the fact that they're earning numbers, that they're getting,
Mhm.
it's the biggest premiere ever for Paramount Plus. So kudos, because that will mean more video game themed shows and series and movies into your homes, which is obviously the goal of what I've been talking about for, well, I think about 13 years now, since 2009, since I started doing podcasting. So I'm really happy about that. But my gosh, I asked Josh if he
Mhm.
was a man of faith, and I told him to pray for me to give me strength to get through this Halo series.
Well, it's a lot like when they take your favorite book and they turn said book into a movie. All you can do is hope and pray that they stay close to the source material.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that what happens with books being transitioned to movies is probably the same sort of thing that happens with video games being transitioned into movies. They have to make adjustments to stories, they have to make adjustments to plot points,
They don't really
adjustments.
have to,
Well, I mean, they kind of do
but
though.
they always do.
Yeah, I feel like they have to sometimes, going the staying true to the book sometimes is difficult because of limitations of the studio budget, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised that it's not saying exactly 100% true to the lore for the video game, but it's still a fun watch. And that's all that I want out of a show. I simply want to be entertained.
I'm glad you're entertained by it. Actually, I am. I'm very glad you're entertained by it. For me, it's just like opening up a wound, and I'm just trying to pick at it, and pick at it, pick
Oh,
at it,
yeah.
because for
That's rough.
me, it's just a rough watch. It's just a
Yeah.
rough watch, and I know a lot of fans are saying that as far as longtime fans of Halo, but to others, it seems like it's really hitting. And you know what? To those people that are enjoying it, I really am glad for you. And if you are, please let us know at popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But you did say about how they're always in Hollywood when they get these properties, video game properties, that they always have to veer away for financial or creative reasons.
Yeah.
Uncharted, though, the after credit scene, they already hinted that they're going into the scenario that set up the first game for Uncharted. So I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Yes,
Yeah, sure, but, I mean, you're not gonna see every single plot point that's in the video game in the movie, that's impossible. It's like taking a novel that's 500 pages long and trying to make that into a 2-hour movie.
you're right, because these
You
games are
can't.
15 to 20 hours.
Yeah,
I
people sink
agree with you on that.
hundreds of hours into video games, so
But you could take the basis from this and make it still a very good video game movie if you wanted to.
sure, and perhaps, telling the story from a different point of view than the one that everybody expected for Halo, was the correct way to approach season 1 for a general, not necessarily video game playing audience. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, so
No, and
please
you're
don't
doing a good job. Doing
like,
a good job.
please don't be upset with me, but I think that that could
I'm
be
upset with you. I'm upset with you.
right, I'm sorry. But, maybe that's the approach, and maybe next season we'll be ready to delve more into, the character that everybody wants to see and hear from more.
Maybe. That sounds good. Yeah.
I'm
Hopefully
just
that will be the case.
trying to stay on the upside of things.
You are being Miss Positive, and I really appreciate that because you know what? I don't want to always be the Debbie Downer here, so I will try to go ahead and be a little bit more positive when it comes to that. But Halo, man, right
Yeah.
back into it. Yeah.
I
Well,
understand getting the bad taste. I'm a
yeah.
Star Trek fan. Like, dude, I get it.
Yes. But you know what? Josh and I will talk more about Halo episode 3. We'll also be talking again about Severance on Monday's show. But for today's show, we got a good lineup for you because we've got a ton of good movies hitting the theaters. In fact, they've already hit the theaters. So we'll get you up to speed what's playing out there in the box office land coming up here in a bit. Plus, also as well, we're going to be talking about Remedy and Rockstar reviving Max Payne and 1 and 2. Is that a good idea for Rockstar and also Remedy to go ahead and revive Max Payne 1 and 2 after the debacle of the GTAs done last year by Rockstar. So we'll talk about that coming up in a bit. Kind of don't have all the confidence in the world on that one. Also, as well, we're going to talk about Moon Knight Episode 2, Iconic. So I'll giving some generalities. I won't go into great detail, but I will tell you if it's heading in a good direction. We'll talk about that. Plus,
Good.
also as well, we'll be talking about Jean-Luc Picard. Season 2 is still going strong. It's still only halfway through it, but you know what? They're already talking season 3. They've already wrapped up season 3 from what I hear, and they just announced that part of that season 3, is going to showcase some really familiar faces from a next generation. So we'll talk about that on a back end of the show. As you know, Melinda has a lot to say about that, being the Star Trek fan that she is.
The
She'll talk.
possibilities for the thing that we would love to see is there depending on a couple of things. Oh, I can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that on the back end. But also, speaking of Star Trek, a man who loves to write for warpfactortrek.com. Plus, also, as well, I have been on his podcast, the Jacked Up Review Show podcast. It is Cameron Sullivan. He returns to the program to talk about critic culture and what makes a movie strong out there these days in 2022. We'll talk to him on his thoughts on that, and I'll share some of my own on the back end of the show as well. But first, my friend, it is the box office. You know what? Actually, before we get to the box office, because that's going to be something that we're going to be talking about in great detail, because it's about a good 15-minute conversation. I'll do that after the break. But leading up to the break, since I babbled on about Halo and how wonderful it is so far, Remedy and Rockstar are reviving Max Payne 1 and 2 as far as
Okay.
putting a nice little new sheen, a new cover. They're going to make updated for all the major consoles out there. And after what we saw with Rockstar's, I don't know, how do you say it, failure to go ahead and do the same thing last year with all the bugs that they did for the GTA games that they tried to bring back. And they did, and it sold well, but there was a massive amount of problems. And we talked about that on the show and how the pushback on it was so great from gamers out there about how Rockstar just threw this out there with all these problems and all these bugs and really just was something that they shouldn't have done for older games such as that.
Right.
I am now going into this thinking I do want to play Max Payne again, but I'm kind of concerned that it will be a pain for
Huh.
Max Payne 1 and 2 if that comes back.
That's my alias, Max Payne.
Mm.
Well, now it can't be because I just told everybody, but anyway, yes. So, I understand the apprehension. But you know what? I'm going to choose once again.
Does Robbie does
Stay on
Robbie
the
refer
positive.
does your husband refer to you as by your alias all the time?
Um, Not all the time.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I've never used Max Payne as the alias. I just thought it was funny.
Okay.
Um, but no, I'm gonna choose to stay on the positive thing. I'm gonna choose to remain optimistic. I'm going to choose to believe that they learned from their mistakes from the GTA debacle, and I'm going to choose to believe that they're going to come through in a big way for us.
Because it's not like they're short of cash, especially with
Right?
Remedy, which has such a great reputation, especially in the past couple of years with Control. They're doing the Alan Wake remake. They're doing the Alan Wake update. That they're doing a new Alan Wake 2. So they're doing a lot of good things there. So they've got a lot of cachet built in right now with the past couple of years with their success they had with Control. So I know a lot of gamers are giving them the help, the benefit of the doubt when it comes there. But with Rockstar, it's not because they don't have the cash, because they have the cash of the biggest selling game of all time in GTA 5
Right.
or thereabouts, one of the biggest selling of all time. And probably the dollar amount that they made more money off that game than anybody has. That probably go ahead and put it that stature. So I really am concerned, is probably what I'm going to say, as far as the look, the feel of Max Payne. Will it retain its awesomeness that had gamers loving it in the first place? Because
Right.
Max Payne, with the bullet time and the fact that it was a really interesting third party shoot 'em up. No, is it one of the most fondly remembered IPs of its time? No, not really. That's otherwise Max Payne would still be with us today. It
Right.
had a Max Payne 3 that they tried to bring out with a fresher look in the I think it was the 360 console era. I think that or the Xbox. No, I don't think it was the Xbox One era, but it was the 360 era, and it really didn't go over as well because they tried to change the look of Max Payne. It didn't really fly with gamers, and I really didn't think that they put their whole heart and soul into it. So I'm hoping they'll do better.
Right.
Please
Yeah.
convince me that they're going to do better this time around. That they've learned their lesson when they go into these remakes, and they're going to go ahead and do a better job with Max Payne 1 and 2.
Yeah, honestly, that's all we can do is hope until we get a hold of it and we get a chance to sit down with it.
It wouldn't be
All we
too
can
hard.
really do.
Doesn't think it would be too hard to take these games and do some nice things to it and make them give a better look. Help them get a better look and help them get to a better point where they're more attractive to a modern audience. Doesn't seem like it would be that hard, would it?
Well, you wouldn't think so, but at the same time, it's possible that perhaps somebody high up at Rockstar doesn't quite have their finger on the pulse of gamers that they think that they have right now. Somebody obviously gave them some kind of information that told them that what they were doing with the GTA stuff was correct.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened, right? I mean, you wouldn't think,
you wouldn't think, but I've
right?
got my hope lies for this game, so for this series of games, the Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes, lie in three words: Q&A.
Mhm.
If you don't have your Q&A a lot better this time around, Rockstar, then you're going to fall into the same trap once again. And for me, that would be really, really unfortunate because of the fact that we have to report on this to people out there. And if there's any continued problems with this, we just say, okay, Rockstar did it again. And Remedy, who again right now is doing some good things with again the Alan Wake 2
Right.
and Control was a big hit, IGN's Game of the year it came out, and all that good stuff. And they don't want to have their reputation tarnished by a bad release of Max Payne 1 and 2. And if they're both putting their names on this, I'm hoping the Q&A will be a lot better this time around.
Yeah, that's honestly it's a hope and a wish.
A hope and a wish
A
indeed.
hope
But
and a wish.
what are your thoughts out there on Max Payne 1 and 2? Are you excited to get back into the realm of Max Payne as this remake will eventually come out due to the basically from the great folks at Remedy and Rockstar, hoping that it will not be the same kind of ending or the same kind of games that we saw from last year's GTA remakes? Please let us know if you're concerned like me or if you think this is going to be a slam dunk or home run for Max Payne 1 and 2, a remake. Please let us know. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. Well, there's still much more to talk about on today's program. The box office is hot and heavy this weekend because we not only have one, we not only have two, but we have three. We have four solid contenders coming this week. We got four individual movies that have come out. One that released earlier this week in Father Stew with Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch is back playing a former fighter who turns into a thug and a drunk, and then he becomes a father. He becomes a priest. Then he gets a disease which gives him the ability to go ahead and or takes away the ability to go ahead and interact normally with his parishioners, and then he becomes this popular priest, and this whole grand story, rags to riches story type deal. That came out on Tuesday. Came out to mediocre reviews. Nothing really super great about it. I'm hoping that again, Mark Wahlberg is going to go ahead and get some success off of this. I know he's selling his $87 million home, so maybe that was coincidence. I don't
Yeah,
know about
maybe.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
could
Also,
be.
you should have said rags to robes.
Rags to robes. There you go. Rags to robes. They're right there for you. But also as well is Ambulance, Michael Bay's latest offering, which is going to have a lot of cutscene. Just like quick cuts all over the place. Quick, quick,
Yes.
quick, quick, quick.
Yes.
Yes. Almost give people out there some. Your eyes are going to be twitching with all the quick cuts and fast action and explosions all over the place. That you get plenty of in this heist thriller that I think a lot of people are also not exactly thrilled to go ahead and see. The Metacritic scores right now are also exceedingly average or right below on that right now. And then, of course, the leading box office right now that could most likely will lead the box office is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. We'll get to the movie you want to talk about in the end sec. But
Man.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2
Yes.
with Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. And of course, Sonic the Hedgehog. Idris Elba has now joined the cast as Knuckles. Looks like it's going to be another fun time. They're all in line to go ahead and compete against the second week of Morbius, which I think will fall harshly due to the negative reviews that it's gotten. Your
Yeah.
thoughts on this weekend? I know there's one movie that we left down on purpose, but we'll be talking about that and giving that plenty of love before the
Okay.
half hour is up.
Okay. I have a feeling that we're gonna see Sonic the Hedgehog come out on top.
Yeah, it's projected to do about 50 million this weekend,
Yeah.
is what they're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I feel for Morbius because I desperately want to enjoy that one. I still haven't had a chance to get to the theater. My gosh. That's still on my get to the theater to watch list. I might just spend a whole day at the movie theater.
Oh, there you go.
Start with the matinee, then go to like an early afternoon, then yeah. That's how many movies I have lined up that I've got to go see at the theater.
Yeah, well, back in the old days, the kids will tell you they used to hop from one theater to another. They used to have their secret ways of doing it. I don't want to get you and Robbie in trouble on that, mind you. So
It would be written all over my face. I have a terrible poker face anyway. They would know I'd be up to trouble.
the usher would come up to you, ma'am, did you pay for this movie?
Right.
No,
Right. Are you old
no,
enough to be in this film? Sir, do I look like I'm older than 18? The right answer is
no.
no.
Well, the last movie I think we should talk about it. We're going to save the rest of the half hour for it. Is obviously a movie that you and I are both really excited to go ahead and see, and that's a movie that's already been out in theaters, in a very limited release. And
Yeah.
that's Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, starring Michelle
Mhm.
Yeoh in this truly quintessential multiverse. Marvel, please take note. Movie. The fact that it's garnering outstanding reviews in its limited release, it got at one point in time the average per theater here in the United States was about $50,000 per theater,
Wow.
which blew away anybody else as far as any other movie that was currently out at that time. That's for the past couple of weeks, just really great numbers. People are so excited about it. The buzz that came from South by Southwest at the Alamo theaters that they showcased it and did a world premiere there, been tremendous. This is a movie that will be on a lot, and I mean a lot of top 10 of 2022 lists. It's
Yeah.
already going to be there. I really think that a lot of people are absolutely in love with this movie. Your thoughts on Everything, Everywhere, All at Once as it
I
hits over 1,000 theaters this weekend?
I why Gerald, I because I don't know everything about the movie business, believe it or not. I know it's a shocker. Uh, I know. But why would they take a movie like this and only do it in limited release?
Well, it's
I
the studio behind it. It's not a AAA name studio. I think it's A24, which does have a pretty good net, but it's not a super wide net as far as some of the other. It's not like a Paramount or Disney that can throw out 4,000 theaters because it does cost money to put these films into that amount of theaters. Plus,
right.
also A24, I think, hedged their bets with this movie. They weren't
Okay.
sure exactly what kind of appeal that will have because yes, it's a movie that is getting and garnering outstanding reviews, but nobody really knew exactly if this is going to be one of those movies that, oh yeah, it gets great reviews and then it goes right to VOD and it just becomes forgotten about and a few
Right.
best 10. This is a movie that's getting a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
This is a movie with Michelle Yeoh that a lot of people are happy seeing her in. She has garnered a lot of momentum lately as far as being not only in a lot of prominent television shows, but a lot of appearances that have garnered her very goodwill with fans all over the world. She has kept herself very relevant over the past 5 years, being in a lot of great projects. She's going to be upcoming in that Witcher prequel that's coming to Netflix, so she's
Yeah.
going to be there. She was in Star Trek Discovery. She's been in movies all over the place. She is putting herself out there as far as a showcase And this is a tribute to her and her success as far as what she's achieved. And now she's finally achieving it in a what people are talking about is a masterful performance. The director is getting raves about how this is being portrayed. This movie is getting and garnering just absolute tons of praise. But I know you and I have been excited about it, and we can't say enough superlatives, but we're going to try to before the break. That's for sure.
Right? And what I found really interesting about this movie is a lot of it was filmed, and produced remotely, which
Yeah.
I find incredibly interesting, and I can't wait to kind of dig in and learn a little bit more about that process and how they kind of made it all happen. I guess with all of the jumping around, you kind of had the ability to be able to film in multiple different locations, and I mean, I know that there's a through line through the movie, but it would have been easy to be able to go jump from one. What am I trying to say, Gerald? My goodness.
Well, again, like you just talked, what you just escaped and got away from COVID. That's something that they
Yeah.
had to deal with there. So you had that with everything else that's going on as far as trying to go ahead and create this universe, create the action of this multiverse per
Yes.
se. And to do that on a lower budget, because you don't have the Marvel budget of 100, 200, $300 million, like for instance, Doctor Strange has, that's
Yes.
coming out here in a few weeks. You had a maybe a tenth of that
Yeah. I mean, in
going in.
terms of movie making, we can probably call this a shoestring budget, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, A24 is the leading, I would call them indie producer that's out there. But
Okay.
they are still an indie producer. A24 is they're getting a name for themselves. They're producing some great stuff. Obviously, they've had some stuff that's been nominated for Academy Awards already. They've got some movies out there that have already been garnered some success on movie platforms like Netflix and other movies of that and other platforms of that nature. They've garnered had some box office success as well. This could be the biggest one of all, simply because of the fact it's got so much momentum
Man.
in their on their side.
Yeah. And I mean, who doesn't love to see Michelle Yeoh either on your television or on the big screen in the movie theater? She's a powerhouse of an actress. My goodness. Her in Crazy Rich Asians was, whoo,
Yes,
man,
yes.
I was
She
afraid of her.
killed it. She killed it.
Really
She
did.
absolutely killed it there in that movie. I think that was something where that was to the point where it brought everybody's attention back on her. She was still very
Yeah.
active in the industry, but Crazy Rich Asians helped bring her back into the spotlight. Of course, she did Star Trek Discovery and she did a
Yeah.
lot of other TV roles. She's done some movies as well that have helped keep her in the spotlight. But this is the movie I think that even though a lot of people out there probably were starting to write her off, she is now telling people out there that she's capable of being a lead in a film that could garner a lot of acclaim and
Yeah.
some dollars for
Yes.
this year.
And I absolutely I know it's corny as all get out, but like I just if there was anybody in the world that I could just give a high five to and say, "Man, like you're crushing it, you're killing it. Please don't ever stop." It would be Michelle Yeoh. Like just that's the only that I mean, I don't get me wrong, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with her, but just if that's all I got was 30 seconds, a high five and a please don't ever stop making movies, I would be happy with that for the rest of my life.
You and I both, but
Yeah.
maybe someday we'll be able to get her on the show. That would be a nice thing that we could go ahead and try to do at some
Yeah.
point in time if she were ever available or PR would ever go ahead and send her some time our way as far as getting her on the air here. So that would be awesome indeed. But it is everything everywhere all at once. It is a movie that I think a lot of people need to go ahead and check out. It is garnering some of the best reviews of the year. Right now it's 83 on Metacritic. But when you look at it, there are a lot of individual critics. And this is something I will be talking about with Cameron Sullivan right after the break as far as critic culture is concerned. The critics themselves and the publications behind them, a lot of those are 100s, 100s, 100s. I know
Right.
IGN gave this a 10 already, and that was weeks ago,
Yeah.
and has garnered a lot of publicity because of that.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of people, if you get a chance, I understand it's only in about 12 or 1300 theaters here in the United States, and I know it's limited worldwide right now, but if you get a chance, please check out Everything Everywhere All at Once because I think you'll be glad you did.
I couldn't have said it better.
I'm hoping you were going to say it
Yeah,
better because,
honestly, give the movie your time. Give
there
the
you
movie
go.
your time.
Yes, give the movie your time indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on Everything Everywhere All at Once and what you're going to see this weekend? Could it be that movie? It should be that movie. It should be that movie. Plus, also as well, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Are you going to go ahead and check that out with the kids as Sonic runs right back into the theaters? Is it going to be Ambulance? Michael Bay exploding things once again in a movie that's out there with Jake Gyllenhaal looking like another boom, 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 boom type of movie that's going to be quick cut, explosions everywhere, looking like it's another true Michael Bay film with his Michael Bay type theme going on there. Plus, also as well, you've got the last movie in Father Stew with Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Mark Wahlberg. Who knows? Could he get a good performance out of this? You never know. Please, we want to hear your thoughts if you get a chance to check it out. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Or are you going to check out Morbius in its second week? Please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. So funny because you have Michael Bay that's coming back into the spotlight. You also have another stylistic action director in Michael Mann from the Miami Vice series that's actually started to go ahead and release his series out on HBO Max this weekend called Tokyo Vice. And I will have thoughts on Tokyo Vice. That will be on the Monday show as well. So looking forward to going ahead and checking it out because I am a pretty good Michael Mann fan. I love his days as far as the way he stylizes everything. As the he always chooses great music, pop music to go ahead with it.
Right.
If you remember Miami Vice, Heat. Heat is a great movie to watch as well. A
Yep.
little long, but it has the greatest action sequence. I think one of the greatest action sequences I've ever seen as far as the bank gunfight is concerned. So if you check that out, that would be great. But I'll tell you what, after the break, speaking of critic culture that we've talked about for the past few minutes with Everything Everywhere All at Once, I will be back with Cameron Sullivan from the great show, Jacked Up Review Show podcast. If you can go ahead and check out that, I've been on that show. He does a ton of podcasts through that channel, so you can go ahead and check him out there. Plus, he also does a lot of great work with warpfactortrek.com. Star Trek fans like Melinda, check that out. He's going to stop by after the break talking about critic culture. And then after that, Melinda and I will be closing out the show with some great thoughts on our own Star Trek stuff when we talk about Picard. We'll also be talking about Moon Knight. And we'll be talking about so much more right after the break. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. It's the PCC Multiverse. Want to thank so much Cameron Sullivan from warpfactortrek.com and also as well the Jacked Up Review Show podcast for stopping by in the program. Before we head out, Melinda, I wanted to go ahead and say why you got to go ahead and check out Melinda's great show, Vampires and Vitae. I know there's a reason why, especially that you got a great show on tap for us this weekend. Why should people check out Vampires and Vitae and subscribe today to be a part of the Vampires and Vitae?
Oh my goodness, that's a huge question.
Well,
So
you told me you set me up for it earlier before we went on
it's
the air.
true. It's true. It's true. It's true. You're right. But we are officially back on this Sunday. Uh,
Yay!
I know we're so excited. 2 weeks off was far too long for us. Unfortunately, this weekend, Margie, well, not unfortunately, let me rephrase that. Margie is throwing in the Highland Games on Sunday. So she's not going to be with us during the show. And
Is
if
she gonna
ever,
be like throwing logs or something like
yeah,
they
the big
do?
telephone poles and the whole thing, the caber
Oh,
toss,
that's
all of
scary.
that. Yeah,
I would be like the guy in the audience cheering on and all of a sudden be hit by it.
yeah, she is an incredible lady to get to know, let me tell you.
Fair enough.
I've had a lot of fun with Margie, and yeah, if ever there was a week where I had thought about maybe we should just not do the stream so we can go and support Margie and just blow up our social media with all things Margie on Sunday. If we hadn't have just had 2 weeks off, that's probably what we would have done. But it's been 2 weeks. We don't even have audio for tomorrow for our podcast. We're devastated. But we're gonna get things back together, back on the rails on Sunday, and we're very, very excited. And our characters are headed to Egypt.
Ooh, very
Mhm.
interesting indeed. So please check it out today, Vampires and Vitae. Catch up with all the great episodes today of Vampires and Vitae or the live episodes that we showcase at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, the number one tabletop RPG streamer, wherever you go on Facebook. plus also is what we check out the latest news and information, or you can check out the latest news and information on the world of pop culture today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. But before we head on out, Melinda, Moon Knight episode 2 is in the books, and it gave us an even more interesting look as far as the dynamic between Stephen Grant from the gift shop, who is no longer in the gift shop because he got, well, I can't say because it's spoilers, so I won't go into it right now, because he had a life change per se, plus
Okay.
also the dynamic between him and Mark Spector. And you find out a little bit more about what's going on with Mark Spector. You find a little bit more about Khonshu and what they have to do in support of Khonshu, and how Moon Knight comes to be, and also the type of battles that he's facing. There's one in particular during the episode that's really cool to watch, and trying to see Stephen Grant trying to go and interact with these people who he's totally out of his element.
Right.
And that's the first thing that's amusing. He does get a surprise visit from someone in this episode that is very familiar with another part of him. That's coming
Okay.
up that you got to go ahead and check out. So that's very interesting. And another secret surprise that comes out that's like, whoa, oh, okay, I didn't know that. All right. So
All
that
right.
hits you
All
up
right.
right there. I will say that again, it is very good. It's off to a very good start for the 6 episode series. I can't even say it's we're already 1/3 in.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
crazy because once you watch 2 episodes, you're already 1/3 in, but it's off to a pretty good start. The numbers are right from what is being gauged analytically. I mean, these outside companies are trying to gauge as far as who is watching it and how many people are watching it. I will say that it is trending above Hawkeye but below Loki. I don't know whatever that's
Okay.
good or bad or whatnot. I know Hawkeye trended better as the show went along. People were watching it and retaining viewership. I think that's why Hawkeye is still today the most endearing of all the Disney Plus shows. But this is getting off to a good start. I can't wait to get a chance to see it so we can go ahead and talk more about it, especially on next week's PCC Multiverse. But your time has been well spent on the time that you spent with Moon Knight.
Yeah, absolutely. The first episode was so good. And the way that the episode ended, you were just like, "Oh, okay. Next week I'm coming back." So, that's what I'm doing after we're finished here. I'm going upstairs with some snacks and I'm watching that episode. I can't wait.
So funny. I can't wait to do the same for Severance, the
Um,
episode 9 and season 1 finale, but I can't do that because I got to edit first.
I do have a question. I don't think
Yes.
that this question is spoilery. But do we have to deal with seeing the shoe situation again, or do we just not do that anymore?
We don't do that this time around. There
Okay,
is
good.
an extended appearance by Ethan Hawke as the bad guy once again,
Yeah.
but he does a lot of explaining about who he is at this point in his life, why he's doing what he's doing, and his past. He does mention his past, and it's
Okay.
very intriguing, and it tells you a lot about why Marx and Stephen Grant are dealing with Khonshu, and it deals a lot with it. He alludes to why each of them are in the situation that they're in right now. And I'll just go ahead and try to be vague on that as I can. But
Sure.
they do elaborate, and they do give Ethan Hawke some time. I don't want to say whether Ethan Hawke is a good bad guy or a bad guy that's like run of the mill Marvel type bad guy yet, because it's been very hard to gauge. They're trying to do this in more of a cerebral fashion,
Okay.
because he himself is not a true powerhouse. It's just the magic he wields is more
Right.
powerful that he wields, as we saw in the first episode. So it's a very cerebral character, and it's someone that I think that doesn't, or you shouldn't underestimate as far as his power or his control over the series and his interest in the series, because I think that so far he's been doing a pretty good job of conveying that yes, he is a bad guy, but he's doing things for what he feels is justified reasons.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of the best bad guys do have those reasons, and all of the best bad guys make us kind of question whether or not we would follow the bad guy instead of the good guy. Those are the best
Definitely.
villains, really. If you can understand where a villain is coming from, you've nailed the writing of the character as far as I'm concerned.
But I am very positive so far on Moon Knight. I really think that it's a solid episode 2. I think that it really helps along. A much easier watch for me right now than some other shows. Halo. So I will just leave it at that. But if you have thoughts out there on Moon Knight episode 2 and you really think that the series is going well, or if you think it should be heading in a different direction, did you like the costume changes that were available in this week's episode? Which I will leave at that. I won't
Okay.
elaborate further. But
Okay.
please let us know your thoughts on Moon Knight as it is so far. And if you're excited to go ahead and catch the rest of the series, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. And one last thing on Disney Plus. Again, these outside analytic companies, they're trying to gauge as far as the amount of hours people put in and watching some of these shows. And the week it came out, Turning Red did beat, according to them. This is outside. This is not something that Disney or Netflix has even put out there yet. But Turning Red looks like it did beat the Atom Project as far as that's concerned. So a lot of interest for
Oh.
Turning Red, a movie that has garnered a lot of praise,
Yeah.
especially from this show,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of criticism for the fact that the subject matter has been
Oh.
kind of controversial. And I know that you're rolling your eyes. I did too. And but you know what? It is what it is. People out there thinking what they're thinking, but it's not turning away people. It's actually extremely popular, and to me, that makes me feel good to see that movie that you and I think that is really good, that's really doing well for Disney Plus. I know that what the inference was that people at Pixar were very unhappy this didn't get to theaters. I think maybe now they're thinking maybe that it's okay because of the fact that it's just gotten so much publicity, so much popularity on that platform as of this time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great film. And yeah, it's really good. If you have a woman, a female person in your life, someone even who identifies as female, please watch this movie. Please do. Do yourself a favor and watch it.
Well, also to dads to help better understand
Oh,
exactly what goes
absolutely.
on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As someone who has two teenagers, it was something that was helpful to me as far as trying to understand that. Someone who's already lived it, but who lived it just recently with both my daughters,
Yeah.
that period of time, that stage of their lives.
Yep.
So to me, it was very entertaining still, and just not just that part of it, but the whole movie itself was really good. And of course, the colors were just outstanding. Just
Oh, yeah.
absolutely a beautiful and gorgeous movie. So yeah, please check out Turning Red on Disney Plus. It's just a great movie. Please let us know if you think the same or you think otherwise. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode, but before we head on out, I will try to not drop any more Severance hints, even though, hint, hint, you should see Severance
Okay.
on Apple Plus. I
Okay.
will comment more about it on the Monday program, talking about a lot about that. Tokyo Vice, we're going to be talking about the results of the box office. I know Josh will have something to say about Halo because he's on the fence. He doesn't know if he likes it or doesn't like it. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more clarity on that. But before we head on out, we talked about Star Trek Picard before. It's still going through season 2. I think it's okay. I'm not all over the place like I was last year when I first started talking to Melinda about it because
Yep.
the first season was kind of all over the place. This season is a little bit more focused, and it's okay. It's okay what I've seen so far. It's taken an interesting turn, especially for Jean-Luc Picard and the name Picard, and I'll leave it at that. I don't know how far up you're on the date on that, Melinda. Have you been watching it as of now, or?
I'm not super caught up on it. That's one of the shows, unfortunately, that I end up with. It's okay. I can binge watch 2 episodes next week. It's fine. I can binge watch 3 episodes next week. Unfortunately, that's the show that I do it to, and it's probably because I feel like I know the characters so well that it's like, that friend that you have where you sit down and you just start exactly where your friendship left off. That's how
Mhm.
I feel about Captain Picard and the cast of The Next Generation.
Well, hold
Weird,
on. I mean,
weird.
yeah. Well, in this year so far, the only familiar faces that you will see if you're from the Next Generation or previous Star Trek series era, as of now in season 2, it is obviously Jean-Luc Picard. You'll also see Q.
Yeah.
And you also see a version of Brent Spiner's Dr. Noonien Singh, although it's not Dr. Noonien Singh, it's another Singh from whatever the 2024 Singh, Dr. Singh was.
Right.
That's who he's playing at this point in time. Those are the three familiar faces that you see. Plus, 7 of 9. You'll see her. She's a constant star in this show. She's a regular cast member, so you see her as a familiar face as well. But next year, which they recently said they already wrapped on, it was so funny because they already talked about how they've wrapped season 3, which is going to be the final season of Picard. They've
Right.
already wrapped it,
Which we assumed
and
it would be, right?
yeah, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But this week they dropped a bombshell that they have included virtually every known actor or name actor that was part of the regular cast in the Next Generation
Yeah.
included for next year. So, what are your thoughts? Because again, you're going to have Brent Spiner there, who is already playing a major role in this season. You're also going to see Jonathan Frakes return. He's actually directed an episode for season 2, so it's not like he ever left.
Right.
Marina Sirtis is going to be there. Gates McFadden will be there.
Yes.
Michael Dorn will be there.
Yes.
LeVar Burton, who should have gotten the gig. Well, we won't talk about that. That's something we talked about
No.
on the show already.
Yeah.
Certain Jeopardy game, but we won't
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes, he's going to be there. So all these familiar faces from Star Trek: The Next Generation are going to be there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Star Trek Picard season 3? Do you just want to get season 2 over with and get to season 3?
I mean, kind of. Not that I have been unhappy with what I have watched of season 2. I've really enjoyed it myself. But holy
And
smokes.
we got to remember, Whoopi Goldberg appeared on this series earlier this season.
Yes,
So.
yeah, and I adore the video of Jean-Luc Picard. Oh my gosh, Patrick Stewart coming onto the View and asking if Whoopi would be on the show and her reaction. Oh, it was just a beautiful moment, and I loved it. But holy smokes, okay, if Michael Dorn, Worf, right, is a captain in season 3, is it possible that we're going to get Star Trek Captain Worf finally after all of these years that Star Trek fans have been waiting and wanting, and Michael Dorn himself had said that he would be game to do?
He's been asking that since the 2 decades ago.
Roughly. Yeah, like it's been a minute. But maybe the success of Picard has Paramount Plus going, huh, maybe there's something else we could work on here. Because there is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Michael Dorn has figured out what his show would be like, what it would look like, all of that kind of stuff. And man, oh man, I would sign up for that episode of that season, that series, all of it. I would sign up, no problem, in an instant, like that. Yes,
You,
give me
you would
Cap.
you just love like a whole season of Klingon language, just
I mean,
blah,
yeah,
to see
I
like blah,
mean,
blah, blah, blah.
I did at one time know a little bit of a Klingon opera. Just not
Okay.
gonna brag too much, and no, you don't want me to perform it because that's bad. Um, but man, oh man, Michael Dorn. If honestly, if he's a captain, I'm going. You'll hear me holler. You'll hear me screaming
Okay. I'll
when
hear
that
you
comes out. If that's
all
what
the way
happens.
from one side of Las Vegas to the other.
Yeah, they
Okay.
just have to say Captain Worf, and I will lose my mind.
There you go, indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on the Star Trek, the crew of the crew of Star Trek: The Next Generation? They're going to be dropping by Star Trek Picard in its final season, season 3. What are your thoughts out there? As all these familiar faces will be dropping by, the whole crew there, the new crew that they've already amassed for season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Looking forward to a reunion of the crew of Star Trek: The Next Generation? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. I already know her thoughts. Okay, I already know. Yeah, that's easy to ascertain right there for you.
Right?
But my friend, it's been a great episode. I truly thank you for stopping by as always. I'm so glad that you, Robbie, and everyone out there in the household are doing so much better.
We are.
But any last thoughts before we head on out?
Please go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. Track down a theater, travel, make it an overnight trip, make it a little vacay for yourself. Go see that movie. Please. Michelle Yeoh deserves all of us going to see this movie. She deserves that.
She deserves it indeed. Just
Yeah.
really happy for her success. Hopefully, one day we can actually talk about that success with her in some type of interview format. That would be awesome. That would be
Oh, man.
definitely worthwhile, and definitely wish her the best. And if you can, please go support this little movie that can, this
Yes.
little movie that could, and hopefully one day next year when it's Oscar consideration time, hopefully it'll be the little movie that did. So from Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great